Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and so I'll be talking about a last Fusil sniper build using the brand new heroic combat knife in Space Marine 2 Patch 12 for the Tech Marine update. Now, the last Fusil is still a top tier weapon on sniper. The heroic bolt sniper may be a bit better, but as far as ease of use goes and for targeted shot builds, I think this one is better for a lot of players, and even if it's not, it's a very strong option. Now, the variant I'm choosing here is the rate of fire version because a faster rate of fire on this gun, it just feels way better to me. And also, the ammo economy here is not perfect, but it's not god-awful because you do have the perk here, Versatile Precision, which does give you 2 shots back every single proc, which is not too terrible. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do take the perk Perpetual Velocity first, shots charged 15% faster, moving here to the perk Adamant Velocity, and then we grab the perk here, Headhunter, for 10% more headshot damage, into the perk Perpetual Velocity once again. This gives us a 30% faster charge rate on top of a rate of fire of 4. That makes our weapon shots come out very quickly, so really good to go down the top row. If you want more ammo economy and blast radius, you could pick up increased capacity down here into things like amplification. Next perk here is Charging Immunity, up here into the perk Headhunter. The final perks I take are Rapid Health for healing in Horde Clear, and then we pick up Headhunter again into the perk here, Increased Capacity, because this actually gives us the proper breakpoint to get 2 shots back from this perk rather than 1. And the final perk I take is probably one of the most important perks of this entire tree, which is Recoupment. Killing a majority level or higher enemy with a headshot of this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This perk is incredible on like every gun it's on. The ability to get armor back from range is really valuable when you're being chip damaged, and this also helps out a ton if you're taking things like Marksmanship and Squad Renewal, or should be the Renewal perk here instead of Purifications. That's why I pick it up here, and really I would pick it up on any build for this because this perk just generates so much value. Now for the secondary weapon, I do take a Heroic Standard Bolt Pistol, mainly because this weapon has a 3-round burst mechanic, and that will help us trigger our perk over here, Pattern of Excellence. This one reads, performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. On this build, 99% of your horde clear will come from this perk here and Melt a Bomb spam, so having an option to just auto get that back is very nice. And also, you can just shoot this into like a sword warrior that's blocking, and even if they block every single shot, you will still trigger the Pattern of Excellence perk, so a great option. Now, for the perk tree here, I do take Perpetual Precision first, moving here into the perk Headhunter and Gunstrike Reload. Then we pick up Increased Capacity, the perk here Headhunter, into the perk here Elite Hunter, which is by far the most important. This one says, after killing a majority level or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots deal 50% more damage for 10 seconds. This perk is incredible. Just keep in mind that to trigger this, you do have to have the weapon equipped. If you swap off the weapon for any reason, you will lose the effect. Next perk here is Headhunter, down here into the perk Extended Magazine. Then I pick up Divine Might, and that's pretty much everything for the tree here. Now, if you want to take the Firepower variant because you really don't care about the heroic option that much, you definitely can. This one is way more damage and better gunstrike damage, but this one will help you trigger that Pattern of Excellence perk more. And the main reason I want to take this in general is because we have a Raven Guard champion skin here that makes the weapon suppressed, and that is a pretty damn cool effect. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary weapon on this build. Now for my melee weapon, I do take the Argent Edge Heroic Combat Knife. This is a brand new heroic weapon to patch 12, and the heroic perk effect here is called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each riposte deals damage. All this perk effect does is give you damage on your perfect parry, and the riposte window basically feels like a block parry window, where like you have to parry on the actual enemy hit. So if you're used to using block weapons, this one will feel right at home with that, and the fencing effect is still very strong for my Norse killing, even with that shorter parry window. Now, on the perk tree for this, I would set it up this way. Starting off with Perpetual Strength for melee damage increase of 5%, moving here to the perk Kinetic Energy, which says each consecutive heavy attack increases heavy attack melee damage by 3% up to 30% for 3 seconds. This is a pretty good option here. This is actually like one of the slowest knives in the entire game, but the Skull Crushers here are still quite powerful. The next perk I take here is Perpetual Strength again, moving here to the perk Heavy Onslaught for 15% bonus melee damage on our heavy attacks. This will affect Shadow Stab, but on this weapon, I actually don't take this perk because I don't think it's really worth taking on this version of the weapon. I think it's much better for the Power Gladius, and I'm also not taking the perk over here, Tactical Ambush. So we are losing a lot of damage on charge attacks and target attacks on our melee, and for that reason, I do prefer to skip over it. Though if you want to take it, you definitely could. So instead I build it this way with Reeling Blow, up in the Tide of Battle, and Shoulder Bash, and I grab the perk here, Extremis Slayer, and I finish off the perk here, Perpetual Strength. Want to grab the Shadow Stab, I would swap out the Professional Strength perk here, but that is up to you. That's pretty much all there is for my Heroic Combat Knife build. Now, for the Sniper perk tree, I do take the perk Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against majority level and higher enemies. This is actually one of the best melee perks in the entire game. It is a 20% multiplicative melee damage increase, which is pretty hilarious. It's on Sniper, so I pretty much always grab this because even on a weapon we're not building for like pure melee on, having a 20% multiplicative damage increase on that is just pretty damn powerful, especially on the power gladius being like one-shot bosses. Next perk here is a Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. This can be a little awkward to use at times because standing around is kind of like a weird thing to do in this game if like you're used to movement speed. Though I will say, if you want to just take this Lingering Concealment, it is still a pretty good option. You could swap it out for like high capacity or adaptability if you want to. I'm just taking it here today because in patch 12, they did actually change this perk to properly show you when it's active in the upper left corner below your HP bar. So that does make it a little bit easier to use. Next perk here is Lethal Efficiency. Killing more than one enemy with one shot from your last few sources charged by 1. This is the only perk in this column that does anything for our gun, so kind of a no-brainer to pick it up. And next perk here is Marksmanship for headshot damage increasing by 10% for all team members. Moving here into the perk Renewal for 15% Camo Cloak charge back on a headshot kill. Now, this is the more dangerous yet more damaging combo here. If you want to be safer, you could take Squad Renewal and Purification. This will give you all of your CHP back on your Camo Cloak, which is a very powerful effect, though I will say, no matter which one you take, always either take Squad Renewal or Renewal, because without these perks, your Camo Cloak is severely limited. Next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first ranged attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, this perk actually has a lingering effect for a very brief window, and if you actually max out all of your rate of fire here and you're at low HP with the perk here Adamant Velocity, you can get 2 shots off at once with this buff active, so pretty funny thing, that will rarely happen. Next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. I think this perk is pretty good for the perk combo with Vantage Point. If you're taking this perk, it is nice to have that little 2-second extra time to have a shot setup. Though I will say Persistence can be better for no knockback. If you want to take this instead, that is up to you. Final perk is Pattern of Excellence, performing 3 consecutive headshots for swords equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This one is just pick up Melt-A-Bomb, drop Melt-A-Bomb, blow guys up, shoot guy in head, repeat. It is one of the most powerful combos in the game. This is like the main source of horde clear on this class in general, and it's a very powerful perk, always has been since they buffed it, and I would still take it here. Now, for the prestige perk options, I do take Emperor's Grace first. When your Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This is just an incredible utility perk. It will save your life a lot. You can actually go in and out of cloaks so much that having 2 seconds of invulnerability on top of that lets you do some pretty interesting things. And invulnerability as an effect in this game will make it so all attacks phase through you on top of doing no damage, so you basically have the ultimate form of no knockback. Next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is just the main ammo economy enabler for your perk tree here. I pretty much always take this unless you're taking the Heroic Bolt Sniper, which it doesn't do anything on, and it's one of the best perks in this tree in general. Now, the final 2 perks I take are Conviction here for a 25% health damage reduction and Exacting Focus for 20% more range damage on Gunstrike, because we do have a fencing weapon, and even without that, it is very easy to set up Gunstrikes on this class, so it's just like a free range damage buff. That's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. The last Fusil is still in a pretty damn good spot. Maybe it's been power crept like ever so slightly by the Heroic Bolt Sniper, but as far as like ease of use goes, like I said before, it is a better option, and hopefully this build guide helped you. Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about a Heroic Bolt Sniper Rifle build for the Sniper class in Space Marine 2 patch 12. Now, the main idea behind this build is just pure damage, so I will be taking things like Targeted Shot, Marksmanship, and Vantage Point, and the Heroic Bolt Sniper already has some of the best single target damage in the entire game, if not the best, because of the ×10 headshot multiplier here, and the Heroic perk effect, Replenishing Hit. After performing a headshot, 1 round is automatically reloaded into the weapon, so basically, as long as you hit your headshots on this gun, you will never run out of ammo. But that being said, you will also not benefit at all in this weapon from perks like Reloaded Restoration, or perks like Versatile Precision that will give you back ammunition to your primary. The only way to ammo regen on this gun is through this perk effect, so just keep that in mind. Now, for the perk tree here, I do start off with the perk Remote Threat. Enemies at a distance of more than 25 meters take 20% more damage. Being 25 meters away from an enemy on a Bolt Sniper Rifle actually happens quite a bit in this game, so it's actually a very strong perk. And the next perk here is also topped here with the perk Survival Instinct. When your health is below 30%, you will deal 25% more damage. Being below 30% HP on a sniper is not the worst thing in the entire game, mainly because you do have perk effects like Persistence or Conviction if you want to use them, and they will give you a huge damage reduction, or even stuff like Purification lets you get back all of your CHP, so a very strong option here as well. The next perk here is Adamantine Grip, up here into the perk Finish or Reload, and then we pick up the perk here Unwavering Resolve. After reloading while having low ammo, damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. This will trigger sometimes, doesn't trigger like too often to be honest, as long as you're actually hitting your headshots, but it's not the worst perk ever, and I do think it's better than the perk down here, Fast Reload. Next perk here is Headhunter for 10% more headshot damage, into the perk Increased Capacity to give us one more round in our ammo reserve, and the final perks here are Strong Start, first round of magazine deals 25% more damage, into the perk Cleaving Fire and Recoupment. Killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment, the cooldown is 15 seconds. Getting armor back instantaneously off of a single shot with this gun, because you will one-shot Majora's with this weapon pretty much every time, is incredible. It's one of the best perks in the entire game. It's even better here. Now, the perk over here, Strong Start, this damage bonus will be up like 24/7 if you hit your shots, because as long as you keep hitting your headshots, you will have the first round of your magazine the entire time, so it's like basically a 25% damage buff that's permanent, so really good there. And that's pretty much all there is for the bolt sniper rifle. And for the secondary here, I do take the standard heroic bolt pistol, mainly because of the 3-round burst mechanic here, which does actually give us back all the shots we need to trigger things like Pattern of Excellence for Melt Bomb spam. That is the main reason I take this weapon. Also, the other reason is because we have a Raven Guard champion skin here that does suppress the weapon. I think this thing is actually pretty cool, and I am playing an Acropolis Hogs. Now, for the perk tree here, I do take Perpetual Precision first, moving here into the perk Headhunter. Then I pick up the perk Gunstrike Reload, Increased Capacity, Headhunter again, into the most important perk here, Elite Hunter. After killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a melee weapon, headshots will deal 50% more damage for 10 seconds. This perk is incredible. Just keep in mind, you do have to have the weapon equipped to trigger this. It can also trigger off of a melee execute, not just a melee weapon kill, though if you swap off your gun, you will lose the effect, which does kind of suck, but just keep that in mind. Next perk here is Headhunter, down here into the perk Extended Magazine, and the final perk is Divine Might, and that's pretty much all there is for this weapons tree. Now, if you want to take the heroic bolt pistol on the heavy bolt pistol option, or just any heavy bolt pistol, you could build it this way, and for the Inferno pistol, I would set up this way. You know, that is all up to you. I'm just taking this one for me. Now, for my melee weapon selection here, I do take the brand new heroic combat knife Argent Edge. In my opinion, this is currently the best fencing weapon in Space Marine 2, mainly because it will stagger any enemy on the first attack in their chain. That means a triple Ravener combo. You will stagger them on the first parry and get a gunstrike opportunity. Same thing for Lictors, same things for like a melee Terminator. That is incredibly helpful, because the number one way you die in this game usually is that you get frame trapped into like a triple melee Terminator hit or a triple Ravener hit. So really good option there. And the heroic perk effect is called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each riposte deals damage. All this does is give you damage on your perfect parry, and the parry window here feels more like a block weapon with a fencing effect. So really not too bad at all. And for the perk tree, I do take Armored Strength first. If your armor remaining, melee damage increases by 10%. Moving here to the perk Sharp Impact, right and left Skull Crusher AoE radius increases by 50%. I think this does help you quite a bit on like fighting the Minora swarms and stuff like that. Down here, I don't think this perk is worth taking a ton on this option, mainly because this knife is not very fast, so like stacking up multiple heavy attacks doesn't really happen that much, so I do pick up this one instead. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength for a 10% melee damage increase. And then I grab the perk here, Combined Onslaught, for more light attack damage, into the perk Tide of Battle, Shoulder Bash, into the perk here, Reeling Blow, and the final perk I take is Terminus Slayer for like a little bit more boss damage, mainly for my light combos. And that's pretty much all there is for the melee weapon. Now for the sniper perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Melee. Now for the sniper's perk tree, I do start off with the perk Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majora's level and higher enemies. This is one of the best melee perks in the entire game. It is a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff to anything Majora's and higher. That is a lot of value for a single perk, especially in this column where Block Break and Medicate Adept are not very strong at all, so I do prefer it here for sure. Next perk is Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. This is a nice little damage buff and also quite easy to pull off with the perk over here, Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. These two work together pretty well, because basically you go into your cloak, you just immediately get out of it and use those 2 seconds to set a Vantage Point and shoot them in the head. That may not be like the most practical thing ever for some people, but still pretty decent. Next perk here is Iron Grip. Weapon spread and recoil reduced by 20%, and range damage against terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for both sniper rifles and stalker bolt rifles. Well, both sniper rifles are us, and this column has no other option for this build anyway, so definitely grab this. Next perk here is Marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all team members. Into the perk down here, Renewal. A headshot kill restores camo close charge by 15%. You know, the only two like top combos here are Marksmanship and Renewal, or Squad Renewal and Purification, and like maybe even Renewal on top of that. But if you want to go Purification for like a little bit more survivability, you can do that. I would just make sure to pick up Squad Renewal, because otherwise your camo cloak is very limited by comparison. But I'm going here for max damage today on Marksmanship and Renewal. Next perk is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks camo cloak deals 75% more damage. Moving here to the perk Lingering Concealment for the reasons I previously mentioned. Into the final perk here, Pattern of Excellence. Performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This is the main source of horde clear on this build. When you find a Melt-A-Bomb and you're able to spam it every 30 seconds, that will solve like most warrior and chaos spawn issues for you, so really good for that, which is why I pick it up here. And that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. For my prestige perks, I take Emperor's Grace first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This is one of the best utility perks in the entire game. Invulnerability in Space Marine 2 makes it so you phase through enemy attacks on top of taking no damage from them. So if you hit your Q button, or like whatever your class ability button is on your console, you get this like 2 seconds of invulnerability here. You'll be able to just like phase through a Carnifex hit, be able to like charge up a Shadow Stab and a Power Gladius or something like that. Really good option, and pretty much good on any build. Next perk here is Indomitable Spirit. While performing a gun strike, you don't lose control of heavy hits and cannot be knocked back. Into the perk here, Conviction for damage reduction, and the final perk, Exacting Focus. After a gun strike, you deal 20% more range damage for 10 seconds. This is already an incredible perk, but with the Argent Edge, it is even better because you get gun strikes even more on this weapon, so really good synergy there, and that is pretty much all there is for this build, guys. Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and I'll be talking about a Marksman Bolt Carbine build for the Sniper class in Space Marine 2 Patch 12. Now, in this patch, the Ammo Reserve variant of the Marksman Carbine got buffed. Its base damage is now far better, to the point it now actually out-damages the Headshot Multiplier version occasionally. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, like maybe they'll buff this one up again in the future, but for now, this is the best option, so we're building around that today. Now, for the perk tree, I do take the perk Great Might first, moving here into the perk Retaliation. After a perfect time dodge, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. The reason I take this perk is because I am building around the perk Vantage Point, which gives us a 20% range damage buff for being stationary for 2 seconds, and on top of that, I will also be building around Evasion. So on a perfect time dodge, our Camo Cloak will automatically activate for 5 seconds. That's enough time for us to stand completely still for Vantage Point, and on top of that, we will get the 25% damage buff here, so pretty great synergy all around. Next perk here is Adamantine Grip. Into the perk here, Unwavering Resolve. After reloading while having low ammo, damage increases by 25% for 5 seconds. This perk and the perk over here, Retaliation, while active, will give you more damage than the perk tree up here for Headhunter and Divine Might. But if you want to go up top instead, you can definitely do that because hipfire perks and healing are still pretty good. Now, next perk here is Extend Magazine, up here into the perk Headhunter and Headhunter for a 20% damage bonus. Then I go down here for Divine Might, into the perk Increased Capacity, Magazine Restoration, and then we take Adamantine Grip again and finish off with Divine Might. These 4 perks can be swapped out for the perks up here instead, like Adamant Hunter and Recoupment. Recoupment is way safer on this build overall because I am not taking Purification. So if you want to pick up the Armor Store instead of like pure damage on like this bottom row, you can do that. I decided to go down here today because I really don't think this build is that unsafe anyways, because with just a perk down here on the Prestige perk option, Emperor's Grace for invulnerability for 2 seconds on Camo Cloak, you're pretty safe on this build. Like, I'll be honest, at least against Tyranids, you're not really gonna have that much trouble, especially when we combine the next 2 weapons we have, which are of course the Inferno Pistol and brand new Heroic Combat Knife Argent Edge. Now, the Inferno Pistol is the one we're going to cover first, mainly because in this patch, it got a 22% gun strike damage buff. It feels way better now. I actually love this weapon. I was kind of a fan of it before, but like these days, I would say it's like an A tier gun. It's quite good. It's definitely like, it feels way better with that extra gun strike damage. Now, for the perk tree, I do take the perpetual range first. Effective range increases by 1 meter, just because range on this thing is just way better in my opinion than going for the perk up here, motivated melee, especially since we're using a fencing combat knife instead. And the next perk I take after this is of course brace reload into the perk here, perpetual range again, up into great might, increased capacity, adamant restoration, and we finish off with extra shot and trick shot for some armor restore and hordes, which is actually pretty damn good. Having armor restore in the middle of a horde clear option is pretty strong. This one's also on the melter rifle and it's pretty good there. Now for the melee weapon, we do use the brand new heroic combat knife Argent Edge. This is just the best fencing weapon in Space Marine 2 right now in my opinion, mainly because of the heroic perk effect here. Scathing retort, the riposte window is shorter but each riposte deals damage. What this weapon does basically is you have a damage on your perfect parry, and the block window, or I should say the parry window, feels like a block weapon instead of like a normal fencing weapon. But the greatest benefit of this weapon is that every single parry you do on Argent Edge will stagger an enemy and give you an opportunity to gun strike. That means you can cancel out of Ravener combos, you can cancel Lictor combos, or normally unblockable sword warriors. Everything that would ever pretty much lock you down in this game will be stopped by this weapon, which is just god tier in my opinion. It's like one of the best weapons in the entire game currently, and by far an S tier weapon alongside the Power Gladius. Now for the perk tree on this, I do pick some stuff a little bit differently. Number 1, I take Perpetual Strength. Melee damage increases by 5%, moving here to kinetic energy. The main change here is that I do skip over Shadow Stab on this build because I don't think the single target damage on this option matters that much. So I just prefer to go for like other options like Shoulder Bash instead. But if you want to take this perk, you definitely can. It's pretty standard here, like Perpetual Strength and Heavy Onslaught, Extremis Slayer or Terminus Slayer is up to you. And I do prefer Shoulder Bash mainly because the the animation of this feels like ever so slightly shorter than Distance Stab, and it locks you down less, and it's pretty useful for that. That's pretty much all there is for the weapon selection. Now for my perk tree on this, I do start off with Melee Mastery. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majora's level and higher enemies. This is still just the best perk in this tree in my opinion, mainly because Block Break is just not that good, and the perk down here, Medicate Adept, is just not that useful at all in Sniper. This is also a 20% multiplicative damage buff, which is like one of the best melee damage buffs in the entire game, so definitely grab this one. Next perk here is Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. This perk is pretty good. You know, I'm not a big fan of this usually, but on this build, there is quite a good synergy with this option, and you really do not need adaptability or high capacity, because high capacity is just kind of redundant because this weapon is so damn ammo efficient, and adaptability is just not as good of a melee damage buff as the perk over here, Melee Mastery. Next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt Carbines reload 20% faster, and the weapon spread and recoil reduced by 15%. This perk is the only perk in this column that does anything for a Bolt Carbine, so you just grab it. I mean, I wish there was a different option, but this is the only one. Next perk here is Marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all team members. This is a nice little damage buff. If you want to take the other two options, you could. Like, you could skip over for Precision Targeting or Squad Renewal even. That is also up to you. I'm just taking this because I'm building to Renewal down here, though I will say, if you want to play Purification for CHP regen, you just take Squad Renewal, because without that, your Camo Cloak kind of sucks. Now, the next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, on this perk, there's actually a hidden effect. When you enter your Camo Cloak, there will be a lingering effect of the 75% damage bonus, which means you can actually get off multiple shots of your Marksman Carbine before it actually runs out. A really cool option. They actually buffed that up in like patch 11, mainly because the Heroic Instigator was added to the game. And if they didn't do that, the 5-round burst would be like totally worthless, but also works for this weapon. So a great option. I definitely prefer this on this build. And also Tactical Ambush is just not worth taking on the Argent Edge knife, and Argent Edge functions all on its own regardless. Next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. This is a natural synergy with the perk over here, Vantage Point. You just go Camo Cloak and sit there for like 2 seconds, start shooting your gun, you'll get that stationary buff, and usually you can start using it out of the cloak as well, so that's why I pick it up here. Final perk is Evasion. After a perfect time dodge, a Camo Cloak automatically activates without spending a charge for 5 seconds, and the cooldown is 30 seconds. Like I mentioned before, having extra Camo Cloaks for Vantage Point is quite nice. There's also some good synergy there with Retaliation. That's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree. But for our prestige perks, number 1, Emperor's Grace. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This perk is god tier at keeping you alive. Being able to become invulnerable in Space Marine 2 makes it so you can never be knocked down for that time period, and on top of that, you will take no damage. This gives you a ton of utility on a sniper class. This is like really the best defensive perk on this class in the game besides purification, so you pretty much always grab it. Next perk here is Indomitable Spirit for no knockback on gun strikes, Conviction for 25% health damage reduction, and Exacting Focus for 20% more range damage for 10 seconds on gun strike. And that is pretty much all there is for this build, guys. Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and so I'll be talking about a Power Gladius Evasion build for the Sniper class in Space Marine 2 past 12. Now, the main idea behind this build is using the perk over here, Tactical Ambush, for 150% more damage on the first melee attack that breaks Camo Cloak, in conjunction with the perk over here, Evasion, for a free Camo Cloak on a perfect dodge for 5 seconds, with a cooldown of 30 seconds. Now, when you combine these two together, you can do a perfect dodge and get the free melee damage buff, on top of triggering damage buffs for your Power Gladius up to 360%. You can take off over half a boss's HP in a single charge Shadow Stab. That is a pretty ridiculous amount of damage, so we will be building around that today. Now, the main weapon I take here for my primary range weapon is the Bolt Carbine automatic variant with the ammo reserve and magazine capacity option, mainly because the 2 accuracy here can be completely circumvented with the perk and the perk tree Home Precision. Equip weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. When you take this perk, you are pretty much shooting a laser beam in the hip fire. This 2 accuracy does not matter at all, so a really good synergy there. And for the rest of the perk tree, I do start off with the perk Headhunter for a 10% headshot damage increase, into the perk here, Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores your health by 10%. This is a pretty easy thing to pull off on the automatic variant of this gun, so a really good perk option. Next perk here is Divine Might for a damage increase of 10%, into the perk Headhunter and Headhunter for a total 20% headshot damage increase. Then I go down here into Extended Magazine for a better magazine capacity, into the perk Divine Might again, and then we take a bit of a detour through Cleaving Fire into the perk Adamant Hunter. When your health is below 30%, headshots deal 25% more damage. Now, on the sniper build, I am going for the safer option with things like Recoupment for armor restore on our headshot kills, on top of things like purification, which does mean we don't really have too much of an issue being a low HP in this game, so having this perk trigger is actually really good for us, and a 25% headshot damage increase is very substantial in this game, which is why I build down the top tree predominantly on this version, though alternatively, if you want more damage in base, you could go down the bottom tree with increased capacity into Divine Might again. This will give you a bit more base damage, but you won't get the added benefit of armor restore of Recoupment or the bonus trigger of Adamant Hunter. That is up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the Bolt Carbine setup. Now, for the secondary on this build, I do take the Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol once again. This is my preferred secondary overall in the game currently, and mainly because it has the highest gun strike damage in the game, on top of a very strong base firepower, and for the perk tree, the Heroic perk effect, No Help is Coming, is incredible. Shooting an enemy with the Elite Scream status stops you from calling for reinforcements, and headshots will kill in one shot. Being able to one-shot reinforcement calling enemies in this game is actually way better than it sounds initially, because in lethal difficulty and above, enemies will go in rage and get a full heal, so you're not only stopping a reinforcement calling enemy from going in rage, you're also stopping the entire horde, and that does save you a ton of ammo, despite this thing having a low magazine capacity and ammo reserve compared to like some of the relic tier options. Now, for the perk tree on this, I just go all the way down the bottom tree into things like Death Strike. You know, once again, I really do think the bottom tree is the best overall up to like this point, because Death Strike is a 25% damage buff for 10 seconds on a Majoris or higher enemy kill in melee combat, but this will also trigger on a melee finisher, so are really easy to pull off. And then for playing a class like Sniper or the Assault that has a ton of uses of their class ability, having able damage is quite nice, though alternatively you could go up here to like Discipline into Strong Finish and Headhunter for more damage on that. But either way, I always pick up the perk Tactical Precision, because headshots dealing 20% more damage and non-headshot damage is decreasing by 10%. Headshot damage is like pretty much all that matters on this gun, and especially for the Sniper class where you have a bonus starting perk of 10% bonus headshot damage. So a really good synergy there. That's why I picked this up, and that's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now for the melee weapon, I do take the Power Gladius, mainly because the Power Gladius has ridiculous damage off the Heroic perk effect Agile Strike. This one says after a perfect dodge, the next melee attack deals 120% more damage, and it can be stacked up to 3 times. Now there's also a hidden effect here, where after the initial attack, the damage bonus will linger for 1 second, so even better than it sounds initially. And on top of that, the Power Gladius has really good horde clear thanks to the 7+ speed. This was actually one of the fastest knives in the game, and unfortunately, Unfortunately, the Argent Edge is just not very good for Horde Clear at all because it has a 3+ speed, and that makes your Skull Crushers come out very slowly, and this is actually the slowest knife in the game for all like the Relic Tier and Heroic options, which is pretty funny. That's kind of why I prefer the Power Gladius on this build. But on top of that, we are building for Tactical Ambush and Evasion here, so kind of a no-brainer to pick this one up. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do take the perk Perpetual Strength first for a melee damage increase of 5%. We really do go like 99% damage here. I do pick up Shoulder Bash over the perk up here, Perpetual Strength again, mainly because Shoulder Bash just feels way better for a lunging attack for me. But if you want to skip this and pick up Perpetual Strength, you definitely can. Either way, I would pick up Kinetic Energy first here, over here into the Perpetual Strength again, into the perk Heavy Onslaught for 15% more damage on your heavy attacks. This will increase the damage of a Shadow Stab, so definitely grab this one. And next perk here is Reeling Blow up into the perk Tide of Battle. And always make sure to pick up Shadow Stab because this is like the premier single target damage attack on the knife in general. And if you're using a knife, you probably want this anyways, so definitely pick this up. And the final perk here is Terminus Slayer for 20% more melee damage against Terminus level enemies because we are going boss hunting on this one, so that's why we grab the Terminus Slayer perk, and that's pretty much all there is for the knife tree here. Now for the Sniper perk tree, I do take the perk Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majoris and higher enemies. This perk is a 20% multiplicative melee damage increase, one of the best melee perks in the game, and we are a melee build in general, so definitely pick this up. Next perk here is Adaptability. Reloading while having low ammo or manually activating your Camo Cloak increases melee damage by 25% for 10 seconds. This is just another free damage increase, so definitely pick this up for a melee build as well. And the next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt Carbines reload 20% faster, and their weapon spread and recoil are reduced by 15%. Now, this is the only perk in this column that does anything for Bolt Carbine, so definitely pick this up. And the next perk here is Squad Renewal. A headshot kill restores ability charge by 10% for any team member. Now, in patch 12.2, they did make it so this perk, or excuse me, the Camo Cloak has a base cooldown of like 90 seconds versus 125 like it was before. So Camo Restoration perks like this are even better now, so definitely pick this up. And next perk here is Purification, and manually activating Camo Cloak removes negative status effects and restores all contested health. This perk is a god tier survivability perk. Getting all of your CHP back on a single button press is insane, and on top of that, there's amazing synergy here with the perk Emperor's Grace, which gives you invulnerability for 2 seconds on Camo Cloak, which means you full HP heal pretty much, and you also get invulnerability, so like whatever was about to kill you won't. Really good combo. Next perk here is Tactical Ambush for the obvious melee damage bonus out of our Camo Cloak. Then I pick up the perk Persistence. When Camo Cloak deactivates, you take 20% less health damage and do not lose control of heavy hits and cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. A 20% health damage reduction stacked with the 25% health damage reduction on Conviction is amazing in this game. 45% health damage reduction in this game is nuts, so stacking these together is a very strong option. And also having no knockback for 10 seconds, this is the only perk in the Sniper class that does that at all, so great pick. Final perk here is Evasion for the free 5 seconds of Camo Cloak on a perfect dodge because this pairs perfectly with the Power Gladius and Tactical Ambush, and that's all there is for the main perk tree. Now for the Prestige perk list, I do take Emperor's Grace first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This perk is one of the best utility perks in Space Marine 2 because the way that invulnerability works in this game is that any attack that would hit you and knock you over normally will phase right through you. This is actually better than like a standard no knockback effect on top of the fact you take no damage. So really fun to play around with and one of the best options in this tree, period. Now the next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This just gives you like effectively infinite ammo or like damn near infinite ammo. A really powerful perk, one of the best reasons to even proceed your sniper in the first place, so definitely pick this up as well. And the final 2 perks are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds, and Exacting Focus for a 20% range damage increase for 10 seconds after a gun strike. And the gun strike here can be on like a Minoris or any type of enemy, so just keep that in mind, and that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. The Power Gladius Evasion Sniper is still very strong in this patch. I know a lot of people are obsessed with the Argent Edge, but you know, they're both very strong heroic weapons. Power Gladius still hits harder overall, and the Horde Clear is better thanks to that 7+ speed, which is why I kind of prefer it sometimes, and hopefully this build guide helped you. Hey guys, first Guardsman here, and so I'll be talking about a heroic Instigator Carbine build for the Sniper class in Space Marine 2 patch 12.1 that is also using the brand new heroic combat knife, Argent Edge. Now, the heroic Instigator is the best Instigator Carbine in Space Marine 2, mainly because the heroic perk effect here gives you a 5-round burst versus the 3-round burst of the Relic Tier option, and the only place the Relic Tier options overperform compared to this one is at like super long range. But if you're using a Instigator Carbine in the first place, you're going for like medium to close, and if you want long range on this class, you're taking a Last Fusil or a Bolt Sniper in my opinion. Now, for the perk tree here, I do take the perk Headhunter first, moving here into the perk Efficient Hunter. After reloading while having low ammo, headshots deal 35% more damage for 5 seconds. This is a pretty substantial damage increase, though it does not trigger too often, but when it does, it is quite powerful. Though alternatively, you could skip this perk and go down here for things like Reload Restoration and Extended Magazine, because these are also quite strong. This one just gives you more damage on this build. Next perk here is Fast Reload, going down here into Divine Might. Then I pick up the perk Increased Capacity for 20% more ammo to our reserves. I do prefer this over the perk up here, Finisher Reload. This one will instantaneously reload your weapon after a finisher. It is a good perk, but the thing here on the Sniper is that we do have an increased reload speed with the perk here, Dexterous Hands anyways, and this one kind of becomes completely redundant if we take this perk as well. But if you want to pick this one up, you definitely could. You will just lose out on a bit of ammo. Next perk here is Great Might, up here into the perk Recoupment. Killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Armor Restore built into a weapon like this is incredibly powerful in this game, mainly because armor will damage cap against attacks in this game like range fire and especially melee attacks, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0 even from bosses, so having a 15-second drip feed of that is very good for your class. Even though the Sniper does not suffer from a lack of survivability too much, this still helps them out quite a bit, and also it helps with counter sniping, because let's say you were fighting a Devourer on the Tyranid side and they're just shooting you with a volley of like a bunch of spikes. This will help you avoid some damage from that and really helps out Chip. Next perk here is Tactical Precision. Headshots deal 20% more damage and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. Headshot damage is pretty much all that matters in this game on any bolt weapon, especially on the Sniper, where headshots are like all you want, because number one, you have perks here like Marksmanship for more headshot damage, and your starting perk also gives you more headshot damage, so kind of a no-brainer here. Next perk here is Headhunter for more headshot damage, and the final perk is Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 10%. This is just a free HP heal, and keeping yourself above those super low HP values can help you prevent one-shots, so very strong here and pretty much strong in every class it's on. And that is pretty much all there is for the heroic Instigator. Now, for the secondary, I do take the newly buffed Inferno pistol. In patch 12, they buffed up the gun strike damage of this weapon by 22%. It feels way better now. It's actually one of my preferred secondaries in the whole game. And one of the benefits of taking the heroic Instigator is that we have a burst weapon to easily trigger perks like Pattern of Excellence, so we do not need to take like a bolt weapon on our secondary here. We just take the Inferno instead. So a great synergy for that. And for the perk tree, I pretty much go through Perpetual Range first for an increase of range by 1 meter. Into the perk here, Brace Reload, and then I pick up Perpetual Range again, because having more range on this is just the best option in my opinion. It feels way better, and perks like Motivated Melee up here do not do too much for your build anyways. And the perk up here, Great Might, is also quite good, moving here into Increased Capacity, Adamant Restoration, which is a god tier ammo reserve perk, and then we finish off with Extra Shot and Trick Shot for armor restore on a 30-second cooldown, which is good for the same reasons that a perk like Recoupment is good. Now, I do take the ammo reserve option on this because I just prefer it, though if you do want to have something else like the Rate of Fire version, you can do that too. It is up to you. They will both function. Now, for the melee weapon, I do take the brand new heroic combat knife, Argent Edge. This is probably the best fencing weapon in Space Marine 2 currently, mainly because the heroic perk effect here is called Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each riposte deals damage, and there is a hidden effect here that makes it so the first parry you do with this weapon will interrupt an enemy attack chain no matter what, even from attacks that would usually not give you a gunstrike opportunity. So things like a triple Ravener attack, things like a melee Terminator attack, they will be stopped right off the bat, which is incredibly powerful as a defensive tool, which does make this the best fencing weapon, like I said before. Now, the riposte window here is pretty much the same as a block weapon. It feels like exactly the same to me. You pretty much just have to hit your parry button immediately as the attack comes, And the damage here is pretty nice as well, because all it means by riposte in the first place is just perfect parry window. So pretty good perk effect even without that incredible stagger. Now for the perk tree here, I do kind of skip over the bottom perks like Perpetual Strength and Kinetic Energy. The big problem I have with this weapon is that its horde clear kind of sucks compared to like a Power Gladius. You only have a 3+ speed here, and that makes this the slowest weapon option of any knife in like the Relic or Heroic tier, which is kind of nuts. So I would really build for things like Armored Strength into Tide of Battle, which is me Sharp Impact, which is right and left Skull Crusher AoE radius increases by 50%. This will help you out with your horde clear a little bit, though you also do have a fencing option. You do have that shorter window, which can also make fighting minors a little bit more difficult. This can help you out that a little bit. And next perk here is Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again, moving into the perk Heavy Onslaught for 15% more heavy attack damage. And then I pick up the perk here, Reeling Blow, into Tide of Battle, into the perk Shoulder Bash, because Shoulder Bash just replaces the standard distance stab lunging attack, and this one feels way more forgiving to use, so I do prefer it. And then I pick up Terminus Slayer, though alternatively, you could pick up Extremis Slayer instead, or like skip over the top tree here and go down the bottom and grab Shadow Stab, but that is up to you, and that's pretty much all there is for the melee weapon here. Now for the sniper perk tree, I do start off with the perk Melee Mastery first. Melee damage increases by 20% against Majora's level and higher enemies. This is one of the best melee perks in the game. It is a 20% multiplicative melee damage increase that is honestly just too good to not take in my opinion. Though if you want to take Block Break, you could pick this up. This one's not god-awful. I just prefer this. Next perk here is Adaptability. Reloading while having low ammo or manually activating Camo Cloak increases melee damage by 25% for 10 seconds. This is just a free melee damage buff for using your cloak, which you do all the time. Alternatively, you could pick up Vantage Point, you could pick up High Capacity, though I will say Vantage Point is better with the perk here, Lingering Concealment, which I'm not taking on this build, mainly because you have to remain stationary for the 20% range damage buff here, which is kind of obnoxious, which is why I just prefer to pick up Adaptability instead. And really don't need ammo on this build for the High Capacity, mainly because we are taking Versatile Precision, and this weapon's already pretty good on the ammo economy. Now the next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt Carbines reload 20% faster, and their weapon spread and recoil are reduced by 15%. Well, the funny thing about this column is every single perk in this column only affects like one weapon type or two weapon types maybe, so kind of a no-brainer. You just pick this up because the other ones do literally nothing for your gun. Next perk here is Marksmanship. Headshot damage increases by 10% for all team members. I just like a little bit of a damage increase here, though if you do want to pick up things like Purification for CHP regen instead, you could do that. I would just make sure to pick up Squad Renewal, because without Squad Renewal or the perk down here, Renewal, your Camo Cloak is severely limited, so definitely pick up at least one of them. Now the next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now in patch 11, there is a perk buff to this that they put in like one patch note and never talked about again. It doesn't tell you anywhere in the description that this perk actually functions for all 5 rounds of your burst fire on the Instigator Bolt Carbine. It has a lingering effect for like a very short period of time. I can almost guarantee you this perk was buffed with this gun in mind in the first place, so that's like a little bit of a hidden interaction. So actually really strong option here, which is why I do prefer it over things like Tactical Ambush. Next perk is Persistence. When Camo Cloak deactivates, you take 20% less health damage and do not lose control from heavy hits and cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. A 20% health damage reduction and no knockback for 10 seconds is a very strong effect, and Camo Cloak comes back very quickly as well, so reapplying this is super easy. But I will say if you want to take Lingering Concealment instead, this is also a great option, and the perk down here, Ambush, is like kind of a gimmick, but it's not like the worst thing ever anymore. They did buff it a couple times, but for now, these are definitely the 2 best options. Final perk here is Pattern of Excellence. Performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. This perk just gives you 30-second Melt-A-Bombs, Shock Nades, Crack Grenades, Frags. Equipment regen is top tier in Space Marine 2 wherever you can find it, and 30-second Melt-A-Bombs, that is like 99% of this class's Mass Warrior Horde clear, so really good option, pretty much the best in this entire signature tree, though I will say Evasion is not god-awful. This one's just way better. Now, for the Prestige perk options, I do take Emperor's Grace first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. This perk gives you so much damn utility in this game. Invulnerability in Space Marine 2 will make you phase through enemy attacks, so having this utility option here where you just hit cloak when like a Carnifex is charging at you, you're able to charge up shadow stabs and stuff like that if you took those perks on the knife. You are also able to just play around things like Neurothrope waves and beams. That is just such a strong option to not get knocked over, so great perk. Next perk is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is just an ammo economy solver for your entire class. The only weapon this does not work on is the Heroic Bolt Sniper, but here on the Heroic Instigator, it pretty much makes it so you have infinite ammo. A really good option, though occasionally you will run out of ammo sometimes, but it's really not too bad, and this will make up for like any lack of ammo like 99% of the time. Next perk here is Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds, because 25% health damage reduction on Armor Break is just incredible. It makes you very tanky on a class like Sniper, and Sniper also has no base HP increases, just like Tech Marine, but unlike Tech Marine, you can achieve a total of 45% DR to your health, which is a top tier level of health damage reduction in the game. Next perk here is Exacting Focus. After a gun strike, you deal 20% more damage for 10 seconds because we do have an Argent Edge. Argent Edge gives you gun strikes all the time, and even without this weapon, this is still a top tier perk effect because 20% more range damage for basically free is incredible. And that's pretty much all there is for this build, guys. The Heroic Instigator Bolt Carbine is one of my preferred close range weapons and medium range weapons in the game. I do think the other options here that work just fine with this build are like the automatic Bolt Carbine. I'll probably make a build around this eventually, but for now, the Heroic Instigator is a lot of damn fun, really damn good in this class, and hopefully this build guide helped you. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thank you for watching. And if you want to come hang out with me live and ask me questions about the game, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description alongside a link to my community Discord. And as always, take it easy. Bye.